Hello everybody. Today I'll be talking about something I probably should have talked about before I even made my profession videos. I had just put my computer back together the day before Beta Weekend Event 3, and I got my hands on all the professions, and I guess I jumped the gun a little bit. But I'd like to give a quick explanation on the different roles you want filled on your team for each map. This is very important when setting your builds and team composition. With the time period you have before each map and tournaments, it is possible for teams to switch roles around for different maps or for different teams. Currently in Guild Wars 2, it is looking like every role must also have a damage element to it, so keep that in mind when making your builds. So let's look at each role on every map, starting again with Legacy of the Foefire. With an offensive strategy, you want to have one point guard. It is their job to stand on a node and be able to fend off against 2 or 3 people for at least 5-10 seconds. The point guard is usually alone, so he has to consistently call out information so that the roamers know when to come and help out. Guardians are the obvious choice for this role, as they can keep everyone off the point for a while. Necromancers can spec into being tanky with a huge health pool and use Plague to fend off against even an entire team, long enough for backup to get there. Warrior can also defend very well with a hammer and mace shield, but they can fall quickly to 3 or more people since they only have a few displacement skills. Other professions like the engineer and even the elementalist can possibly fill this role, but I think the first 3 should be your first choice. Your next 2 roles to fill are the flat damage roles. These will be your burst damage attackers that work together to quickly take down targets during a team fight. They must synergize well together in communication and in combat. Having one use crowd control so the other can get off their burst damage, and then switching ensures quick, high damage and takes a lot of practice. It is their job to roam the map to help out where need be, whether that's helping the team push for a node capture or helping the point guard defend from a number of enemies. The DPS roles will still have to listen in to all communication to figure out where they need to be. The best professions for this role at the moment are Warrior for their greatsword and rifle damage, and Frenzy. Rangers can use the same trick, but they don't have good channeling abilities like they used to in the beta weekends. Elementalists are really good burst damage with Dagger or Scepter Dagger, and with their water attunement can also provide some support no matter where you go. Engineer does great flat damage, and the elixirs can be a huge help to buff your partner and any other teammates you are helping. Thief is a possibility, mainly because of their speed, but it's been noted that his bleed support spec is just ridiculous. That's not to say you could just use that spec instead of a second flat damage roll, you just might have enough damage during team fights. But you are always free to try. The next role to cover is the condition damage role. Speccing into condition damage also allows you to be a bit tanky, so it is your job to be in the middle of battle when your team is pushing to capture a node or moving to destroy a secondary objective. Necromancers are obviously a good choice for this because of their huge health pools, along with their condition damage, even though they are not as good at stacking conditions as other professions are at the moment. Thieves are great at dealing heavy condition damage, can stealth constantly, and fight from range. Engineer's grenade bleed spec can stack insane amounts of condition damage while also buffing your team with elixirs and keeping enemies busy with net turrets. The last role you need to fill for this map is a support. A support can mean a lot of things though. It is your job to stick with your team and help in any way you are built to help. I know that sounds vague, but every profession can help in different ways. Elementalists are great supports for their AoE healing and regeneration, while also being able to deal big damage in AoE crowd control. Guardians can cast tons of healing and crowd control using Mace Shield, so if you have an overabundance of Guardians on your team, more can't hurt. Necromancers are also good supports because they can do good condition damage from afar. Necros can draw conditions from your team and then focus them all on your targets. And as we all recently found out, the Thief has a great bleed support spec. And they use pistols so they aren't in the middle of battle but are still able to buff nearby allies. For the defensive strategy on this map, the only difference is trade one of your DPS roles for a second point guard. The second point guard is spec'd more offensively since he will be with the team more, but still focused on keeping people off the point. This is more narrowed to a warrior build like a hammer and greatsword or a guardian that is spec'd for crit damage or something that'll give him some more damage. This also means that your condition damage is now paired with one of your flat damage for roaming around the map. Alright, let's finally move to the next map, Battle of Kylo. Luckily, we don't have to go into too much detail since we already talked about most of the roles that are on every map. But let's focus on the differences. Battle of Kylo is very similar. It has the offensive and defensive strategy with the same roles. You just need to make the personal decision of who do you want to man the trebuchet. In my opinion, it is best to send the condition damage role to the trebuchet. It's very possible that the enemy team will send a person or two to destroy your trebuchet, so the person manning it must be able to defend himself. If that wasn't the case, I would have picked the support. The Forest of Niflhel is similar in the roles, but the roles might have a few different objectives at times because of the secondary objectives. Starting out, the team splits them into 3 groups. The offensive strategy is to send the point guard to the side node, have the condition damage and the support fight their neutral monster, while your DPS duo try to steal the enemy's neutral monster. Once the secondary objectives are gone, treat it like you would the legacy of the Foefire. Have your 4-man group push for nodes and your point guard defend, while your DPS duo roams in between to help where needed, or send one DPS to ninja a point if possible. The defensive strategy starts out sort of the same, but switching out one of your damage duo for a second point guard. This is good for blocking off the rest of the enemy team to give your flat damage spec the easy last hit on their neutral monster for the steal. Sounds like it would take a lot of practice though. It also gives you a better chance to get away after you steal, so you have the chance to regroup at the keep before the big fight. Wow, that was actually a lot longer than I expected. But hopefully it better explains the roles and what their objectives are. It is important to know these because this is the knowledge you need to wrap your head around when deciding your builds. What can my profession do? Alright, cool. Now, what do I need him to do this match so my team can carry out their objectives? Knowing what your profession can do gives you more possibilities of roles to fill in case your team needs to change in between matches, while knowing what your role objective is can help you strengthen your build to help your team the most. Alright, I guess I'm done on this subject. If you liked the video, feel free to click the like and subscribe buttons below for updates on future videos. I will now be able to work on the team composition video I was talking about in earlier videos, without having to incorporate all this information as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.